Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Well, walk or drive by just about anywhere in our great city, and you know it is holiday season. The lights are up, people are posting their favorite holiday recipes online, and those Hallmark movies are on 24/7.
I think they started in October, to be honest with you. But all right, seriously, let's be honest. This time of year can also be stressful. You know, commercials showing a perfect holiday table set full of food, but that's not a reality for everyone.
Right. So for this episode, we are going to celebrate how food brings people together and motivate our listeners to help more families do just that. And our guest today is the relatively new executive director of the Dublin Food Pantry, Julie Erwin-Rinaldi. Julie, welcome to Link Ahead.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you, and we're going to change up our routine just a little bit. Quickly, rapid fire question out of the gate. What is your favorite holiday side dish?
Stuffing.
Stuffing. Okay, what about you, Bruce?
I'm going to double down on the stuffing, Lindsay.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we'll circle back to that a little bit later.
Wait, what is yours?
On. Oh, I am a mashed potatoes person.
Okay.
So
all
yeah,
right,
mashed potatoes with gravy.
Well, Cesar Chavez said this about food. If you really want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat with them. The people who give you their food give you their heart. So now we fully realize that you can't eat with every person you serve at the pantry, Julie, but that's really the business that you're in, to give to our friends, neighbors, and our families in need. So we'll get into specifics in a minute, but first, can you talk broadly about the overall community impact that the food pantry has?
Sure. So local food pantries are really in place to be a safety net for residents who are in crisis, who are going through some kind of crisis. And so that's what we're here for. So there's lots of different local food pantries that do this in different communities, and the Dublin Food Pantry is just as like the Worthington, Hilliard, all the different food pantries. We're here to really be there when somebody needs a little hand up when they're struggling. And so I was very surprised when I started this position 3 months ago that we served 10,000 unique individuals last year that were in the Dublin footprint of our agency. Tremendous.
Wow. That's incredible. And some people might think that people overuse a food pantry, but it's actually opposite, right?
Right. That is so true, Lindsay. We have seen that the average number of times that our residents actually access our food pantry is about 5 times a year when they really are in some kind of crisis and they really need it. They could come 24 times a year, but they're just coming when they need it, and nobody comes to a food pantry unless they need to.
Well, how has the new location, which opened last year, been, in your words, a game changer?
It was a huge game changer. The site has really been, it's so much larger. We have the capacity. We have a box truck that we have the capacity to pick up more food at the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. We just have more space to actually bring in more food from local grocery stores and donors. It's just been a game changer in terms of having more access. The customers have more access to the pantry. It's easier to access. So many different ways that it's just a better site for us to be.
And we should mention where that new location is. You're in Dublin Village Center, right?
Yes, it's 6608 Dublin Center Drive, and we're right behind Right Rug and Party City on Sawmill, so we're behind them.
Okay, well, let's talk about young people in Dublin. We know school-aged children in Dublin reflect the greater population of Ohio, and that 1 in 5 are food insecure. Can you talk about your outreach in partnership with Dublin City Schools?
Yes, our partnership with the Dublin City Schools is so key. We work hand in hand with them because they're feeding children on a daily basis as well. I just read a stat from the CDC that stated that 50% of calories that children consume are actually in school. And
Wow.
to me, that just was like so eye-opening. So we really work very hand in hand with the school district to make sure all the social workers, counselors, principals, everybody in the school district, the PTO presidents, everybody knows how to access the food pantry and how important it is that we get families to the food pantry so they can feed their families.
Wow. Now let's go to the other end of the age demo, seniors.
We are unfortunately seeing more older adults accessing our food pantry, and that is a nationwide issue. The high housing costs, the cost of groceries, just the cost for everything. And so we're seeing more and more older adults accessing our services. One of the things we're trying to do is bring in more services to support them when they're coming to us, because obviously there's some kind of crisis going on in their lives where they're having to come to a pantry for additional food.
Well, earlier you mentioned the Dublin footprint, and you serve 3 counties and 8 zip codes. People may not realize that. And you also studied food insecurity by zip code. What did you learn?
We serve the Dublin City school zip codes. And what we found was we did a deeper dive into the zip codes that we serve, and we found that the highest volume of customers that are coming to us are from the 43017 zip code. And that was kind of surprising to me. Was not thinking that was going to happen, but that's what happens when you look at data.
Right.
You learn, and so we'll have to really do some more kind of outreach in that area to make sure that folks know that we're here.
The pantry also served more new families in 2023 and this year. So that means that the needs went up exponentially. So what is driving this?
Yeah, so housing costs, the cost of food, groceries, just the cost of everything. So the cost of all things that people have to pay, their their rent, their leasing costs, food, electricity, all the things that they have to pay for that are just more expensive. Right. And so they're coming to us for additional support.
Do you foresee the need rising in 2025 as well?
Unfortunately, we do. We are looking at the national data, we're looking at local data, and unfortunately, we're seeing a huge uptick in need across, our city, and also across the state and across the country. So we're anticipating that we're going to see more and more need. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but we need to be ready for that.
Right.
And a lot of people might think with a food pantry, we're talking about those unperishable items, but you guys actually have a sustainable garden where you grow hundreds of pounds of fresh produce that's then carried home to feed and nourish our neighbors. That's one thing that's really changed about food banking over the last several decades is the push for fresh, healthy food, right?
Yeah, that's so exciting. It's very cool. So yes, we do have our own garden that's tended to by master gardeners from the community, which is very cool. They produced 618 pounds of fresh produce for the pantry last year. It was our first year, so it was really successful. We were very excited about that. And then they donate all of that food to us. We want to try to make sure, and all pantries across the United States and the area want to make sure we're getting as much fresh produce into people's hands.
Do you have space for all that garden? Like, where's the garden?
Yes, the garden is on the one side of the pantry, and actually they have done a tremendous job, like building it up.
Okay.
And come visit. I would love for anybody to come visit and see it. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Food pantries like ours have really stepped up by making the pantry experience a joyful and respectful. You talked about this very thing recently in an update to City Council. Would you expand upon that joyful theme?
When you walk into the Dublin Food Pantry, there's such a positive, joyful, welcoming vibe. And I just love it. Our volunteers have really created such a welcoming experience. When you're going to a food pantry, especially for the first time or even the fifth time, it's scary.
Right.
We have a lot of people who come to us who have never been to a food pantry before, who have just lost their job, had a major medical thing happen, and they have never ever stepped into a food pantry. So the fact that they're coming into a welcoming, respectful, and I say joyful atmosphere is just amazing that we can provide that.
Well, let's talk about your career arc and how you got here. You spent nearly 4 decades in nonprofit, public sector, and behavioral health work. So food insecurity is often correlated to other social determinants of health like housing, crime, education, and transportation. Can you help us more fully understand how food plays into this broader picture of overall health?
That is very important, and more folks in the food insecurity business are looking at how food insecurity impacts health. So you look at people who are in crisis. They're going to be in crisis. They're going to be more likely to have a chronic disease like obesity, diabetes, and mental health issues. And this is why this made sense for me to really take this on. Food insecurity is really linked to higher issues with mental health like depression, stress, anxiety in all ages. And we're very concerned about how that impacts young people.
You retired from Centero, which was formerly the Dublin Counseling Center, earlier this year, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Right, so I had been with Centera, which was formerly Dublin Counseling Center, for 15 years, and before that I worked as a public servant at the county level. But this was such a great transition for me in terms of looking at food insecurity and how it impacts people's mental health. And so even just looking at how food insecurity impacts children, I just really felt in my heart this was the right transition for me.
Now, we also have to discuss your life and commitments, plural, to Dublin over the years. You and your husband have lived here for nearly 30 years, and you volunteer for organizations like Meals on Wheels, Salvation Army, and you're a Rotary Club member. What is it about Dublin that makes you want to give back?
I moved to Dublin around 30 years ago when my husband and I got married. And, it is just such a giving, kind, amazing community. And that starts with the leadership at the top. City council has always been so welcoming and supportive of the nonprofits in the community. And the Dublin Food Pantry, I am just so amazed at how both the city and just local citizens are just so kind and giving and generous.
Well, and I know I've been with the city for 24 years, and I remember the very first Irish festival I worked and all the volunteers that came out. And it doesn't matter what we do, people volunteer all the time with the city. And it's just outstanding that, if from an outsider's perspective, how do you get these volunteers?
Oh, it's so easy. People call us every day to ask how they can help. I've just been floored. It's really overwhelming. Folks are just so giving and caring. And, we have people who have been volunteering with the pantry for 30 years. We have people who have volunteered once. We have people of all ages that want to help. And, folks want to volunteer. Folks want to give back. And we actually have a number of individuals who volunteer at our pantry and probably other pantries who have actually been recipients of pantry services. And I love that outcome because they're very grateful and they want to give back.
Well, and because of all the ways that you give back, you were selected as the Independence Day Grand Marshal this past year. So quite an honor and well-deserved. Tell us about that whole experience for you.
Well, it was quite a surprise. And, it was, again, everybody was welcome, respectful, wonderful. Everybody made me feel really special. And that's what I want everybody to feel in this community. Like I felt welcomed, respected, cared for. And everybody should feel that way in this community.
Have you worn your sash outside of the
No, I gave it back.
You gave it back?
Yeah, well, because I didn't want to get it soiled in any way. So.
I thought that was yours.
I gave it back right away. No. You have
a
to
scepter,
give it back.
or did you get a scepter?
No scepter.
Like
No. But,
well, Julie, as we start to wrap up the conversation, you kind of touched upon volunteers, and it doesn't matter age, background. Anyone can help with the cause. So what would be your message to people that are listening to this podcast?
No matter how old you are, no matter where you are in life, you can always give back. We've had young people. We had actually the city manager's son and his Boy Scout troop were in the pantry this week making Thanksgiving baskets for folks.
Awesome.
And so, and we have people of all ages giving back. And you can donate money, you can donate food, you can donate your time. Just come on down and help us out.
Wow, that's a great place to end. And so we're going to start getting into our rapid fire questions. Earlier, we talked about those favorite holiday side dishes, and you said stuffing. So tell us, who makes it and what's the secret ingredient?
I make it at our home, and I make it like my mom did. And the secret ingredient is to put lots of gravy on top.
That might be the secret ingredient.
Nobody wants to try stuff.
No. Okay, another food quote. Author Jim Davis said, "Vegetables are a must on a diet. I suggest carrot cake, zucchini bread, and pumpkin pie." Don't know about that. But do you have a favorite veggie?
I love Brussels sprouts.
All right.
Yeah.
If they're made right, those are pretty good. Okay, well, how about favorite holiday dessert?
Pecan pie that is made by my husband.
Oh,
Nice. Very nice. Favorite lunch spot in Dublin?
All right, this is a very unfair question because I'm not answering that question. It's a trick question.
Is it a trick question?
I think it is. There's so many wonderful places in
Okay.
Dublin to go to lunch.
Well, she's not going to like my next question.
And dinner. Well, you know what? I do love going to the Dublin Village Tavern. So that is one place, but I don't want to make anyone else feel bad.
They
but
actually
we do
sponsor this
love going.
podcast.
Oh, they do? Okay,
They just don't
I
know
love
it yet.
you guys. Okay, that's right. They just don't know yet. No, that is our go-to.
All right. Walk us through a perfect Saturday spent in Dublin for you.
Perfect Saturday, and we do this every Saturday. We have our grandson every weekend, and so it's just playing outdoors in our yard. Going to a park. We made a goal that we would go to all the Dublin parks at some point in the last 3 years, and so we've made most of them.
I say, there are 64.
There are still. I know that, Lindsay. But it was a good goal, and we're still working on it. But just being outside and playing with my grandson and my husband, and just being outside.
That's amazing. I hope you have the Dublin Parks Pass from Visit Dublin, so you can keep track of all those visits. Okay, last question. It's time of year for reflecting on gratitude. So what are you grateful for?
Well, number one, I'm grateful to live in a community that is so giving and caring and allows me to do this kind of work. And I'm also grateful for my family and my friends and just my loved ones and everyone I get to work with, make an impact in this world. So just overall grateful.
Yeah, well, we are grateful for you and to have someone like you in our community and now leading the Dublin Food Pantry. So, Julie, thank you so much for your dedicated service to our city. And thanks for joining us on Link Ahead.
Thanks, you guys. It's great working with you.
And to our listeners, thank you as well for taking the time to connect with your city. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the many personalities and experiences that make Dublin a thriving place to live, work, and grow.